Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today, we're opening up a topic that is arguably one of the biggest silent killers of long-term relationships.
hmm
It's this story of two competing narratives that happen in the bedroom. And, often in the silence between two people just lying there staring at the ceiling.
It's the story of the Great Divide.
Right, the Great Divide.
Yeah.
It's that pervasive cultural script we've all been handed, right? That men need sex to feel good, and women need to feel good to want sex.
Men want physical release, women want emotional connection.
And the tragedy is we're told that these are like opposing forces, that they're at war with each other.
And that whole framing is it's catastrophic.
Yeah.
What we're seeing in the research stack today, and we have a ton of material from the Journal of Sex Research to the Gottman Institute, is that this binary view, it isn't just a cliche.
It's not harmless.
Not at all. It's actively corrosive. It creates what psychologists call a quiet distance, a space where both partners feel completely unseen.
So our mission today is to dismantle that binary. We're going to look at why mismatched libidos aren't actually the villain we think they are.
And maybe why waiting to feel in the mood is the worst strategy you could possibly have.
Exactly.
We need to move the conversation from sex drives, which sounds so fixed, like a biological setting, to thinking about sex motivations.
Okay, let's start with the stereotype itself, because it didn't come from nowhere. We've got sources here that break down the reality behind this release versus connection idea.
Yeah.
Is there any truth to it?
There is biological truth, yes, but it's often misinterpreted. The data highlights a really common dynamic in men, often driven by testosterone and a more, let's say, linear arousal pattern.
Okay.
For a lot of men, sex isn't just about, getting off. It's a primary coping mechanism for stress.
Okay, let's unpack that, because I think the common interpretation is just he's horny, but you're saying it's actually a stress response.
Precisely. Think about the guy coming home from a high-pressure job. He's carrying all this cortisol, the stress hormone. When he initiates sex, he isn't necessarily ignoring the emotional reality of the relationship. For him, physical intimacy is the pathway to emotional connection.
Is his way in.
It's how he lowers his cortisol and raises oxytocin. It's his language for feeling safe. He needs to touch to feel loved.
So when he comes home stressed and initiates, and she's thinking, how can you be thinking about that right now? We haven't even talked. She's missing the whole mechanism.
She sees it as him checking out.
But he's actually trying to check in.
For him, the physical is the emotional work. But this, of course, puts him on a direct collision course with the common female experience that's outlined in these sources.
Right, because her engine often runs on a different kind of fuel.
Exactly. Often influenced by estrogen and, different neurochemical pathways, the female arousal system, and we are generalizing here based on trends, tends to require that safety to be established first.
She needs the cortisol to drop before the oxytocin can flow.
That's it. She needs to feel heard, understood, emotionally safe before body can even think about being vulnerable. So you have this classic standoff.
He's reaching for sex to feel connected.
And she's rejecting sex because she's too stressed or disconnected to even engage.
The research calls this the intimacy gap. It feels like two people trying to trade currency, but one has euros and the other has yen, and neither gets the exchange rate.
That's a great analogy. And when you treat physical and emotional intimacy like separate economies, the relationship it creates a deadlock.
One is waiting for touch to open up.
And the other is waiting to open up to be touched. And the silence just gets louder.
And biologically, there's a feedback loop here that gets broken, right?
Yeah.
It's not just feelings, it's actual chemistry.
Yes. Sex releases oxytocin, the pair bonding hormone. It literally makes us feel like we belong to someone. If the partner who relies on sex for that bond is constantly denied it, their cortisol spikes. They feel rejected, unsafe.
And the other partner who's waiting for reassurance just feels pressured.
Pressured and objectified, which spikes their cortisol. So you have both people chemically stressed and emotionally isolated, sleeping 6 inches apart.
And that's the quiet distance.
That's it. It's a physiological state.
This leads us right into the mechanics of why this happens. And this is probably one of the most important concepts in modern sex research. Spontaneous versus responsive desire.
This is the game changer. I mean, if you take one thing away from this deep dive, it should be this. We've fundamentally misunderstood how libido works.
We've been using the wrong model. We think of it like hunger. You're just walking around and suddenly you think, I want a sandwich.
That is spontaneous desire. It's a mental urge for sex that just pops up. It's what you see in the movies.
Right. You lock eyes across a room and boom.
Exactly. And for a long time, we treated that as the standard for a healthy sex drive. If you didn't have it, you were, broken.
But for a huge portion of the population, and the research shows this is heavily skewed towards women in long-term relationships, that is just not how the engine works.
No. They experience responsive desire. This is desire that shows up after the party has started.
So you're not hungry for the sandwich, but if someone puts a delicious meal in front of you and you take a bite, suddenly you realize, oh, actually, I am hungry. This is great.
That's it. You realize you're hungry by starting to eat. And millions of couples are stuck because of this misunderstanding.
Because one person says, you never initiate, and the other says, I just don't feel the urge.
It's heartbreaking because what's often self-diagnosed as low libido is actually just untriggered responsive desire. The engine isn't broken.
You're just waiting for the car to start itself.
But this car needs you to turn the key first.
There's a term for this in the research that I found really helpful. Sexy-minded versus sexy-bodied.
It's a brilliant simplification. A sexy-bodied person gets physical signals easily. Their body tells their brain, go.
Okay.
A sexy-minded person needs their brain to be courted. Their mind is the gatekeeper. And if the brain is worried about the mortgage or the kids or feeling unheard...
It slams the gate shut on the body.
Exactly. So if a sexy-bodied partner tries to bypass the brain and go straight for the body of a sexy-minded partner, it doesn't feel like an invitation.
It feels like an intrusion.
It feels like a demand. And this brings us right to stress, which is the ultimate libido killer, especially for responsive types.
It creates what the researchers call the avoidance cycle.
Right. The higher desire partner, usually the spontaneous one, feels rejected, so they pursue harder, they pressure.
And the lower desire partner just feels overwhelmed.
Overwhelmed. Their brain sees the pursuit as another stressor, another task on the to-do list, so they retreat.
Which makes the pursuer feel even more rejected, so they push even harder.
And the cycle spins until intimacy becomes a source of anxiety, not comfort.
Which leads to that conclusion so many couples reach, maybe we're just not compatible. But the research on compatibility was, well, it was surprising.
Surprising is putting it mildly. The research basically says that sexual compatibility, in the sense of matching desire levels, is a myth.
So desire discrepancy is a feature, not a bug.
It is inevitable. It ebbs and flows in every long-term relationship. But here's the wild part. A study found that couples who matched perfectly were not necessarily happier.
Wait, unpack that.
Mm.
Because logic says if we both want it twice a week, we should be happy.
Context matters. The study found that matching at low levels of desire, where both partners are basically about sex, resulted in lower satisfaction than having a discrepancy where at least one person had high desire.
So it's actually better to have one person frustrated and wanting more than two people who are content with nothing.
Statistically, yes.
Huh.
Because if one person has high desire, there's still an engine in the relationship. There's energy being directed toward that connection.
But if both match at zero.
The intimate part of the relationship can just atrophy and die without anyone even noticing.
Wow. That completely changes the perspective on the nagging partner. They're sort of the life support system for intimacy.
In a way, yeah. Desire is a dyadic function. It belongs to the couple, not the individual.
So it's a system.
It's a system. Your partner's desire level predicts your satisfaction. You feed off each other. If I'm responsive, I rely on your spontaneous desire to provide the spark.
So the discrepancy isn't the problem. The problem is how you manage the gap.
Exactly. And that brings us to the danger of doing nothing.
Right. This huge study on what couples actually do when the gap appears, when one wants it and the other doesn't.
And it was categorized into 5 strategies: disengagement, communication, doing something alone, doing something else together, and having sex anyway.
Let's talk winners and losers here.
Fix it.
Because I think most people default to the loser strategy without even realizing it.
The clear loser, the strategy linked to the worst outcomes, was disengagement. This is the silent treatment of the bedroom.
Rolling over, changing the subject.
Ignoring the hand on the shoulder, just waiting for the feeling to pass. It's so damaging. It's invalidating. It says, your desire is an inconvenience.
So what works?
The best strategies were partnered strategies.
So that's communication, cuddling, maybe other sexual acts that aren't intercourse.
Right. And here's the nuance. Partnered strategies were way better than solitary strategies like masturbation. So saying, I'm not in the mood, but I'll cuddle with you, is vastly better for the relationship than saying, go handle that.
It keeps the connection alive.
It keeps it a we activity. Interestingly, the data showed a gender split. Women were more likely to suggest these compromises. Men were more likely to just resort to masturbation alone.
which the researchers think is social conditioning.
Yeah, that a man's sexuality is his own burden to manage.
Now, we have to talk about the most controversial one. Having sex anyway.
Maintenance sex.
Is this good or bad? Because it sounds, well, it sounds wrong.
And this is where we have to be so precise. The research breaks it down into two motivations: approach goals and avoidance goals.
This distinction is everything.
Avoidance goals are having sex to avoid a fight, to stop your partner from nagging. You're acting out of fear. And the research shows this is toxic.
So that's the duty sex that just breeds resentment.
Correct. But then you have approach goals. This is when you engage in intimacy to enhance the relationship, to feel close, to make your partner feel good.
You might not be hungry when you start,
But you choose to sit at the table because you value the connection.
like going to the gym. You don't always want to go, but you go because you value your health, and once you're there, you usually feel good.
That's a perfect comparison. Engaging with approach goals has positive outcomes. And crucially, for people with responsive desire, this often triggers the desire.
Because you've started the car.
You turn the key. If you engage out of avoidance, your body stays tense. If you engage out of approach, I want to be close to you, your body relaxes, and desire has room to wake up.
So it's not the act, it's the why.
It's all about intention.
So how do we actually fix this? The sources talk about broadening the definition of sex.
We are obsessed with penetration. We've defined sex as intercourse ending in orgasm. And for a long-term couple, that definition is a trap.
It's a pass-fail test.
Yeah.
And nobody wants to take a test when they're tired.
Exactly. This is why the sources point back to sensate focus.
What does that look like in practice?
It's couples taking turns touching each other, skin to skin, without the goal of arousal. In fact, orgasm is often off the table at first. It's just about sensation.
It removes the goal.
It remaps the brain. Instead of touch, meaning performance required, touch starts to mean safety and connection.
I want to bring in Esther Perel's idea here about security versus mystery.
The great paradox. We want our partner to be our anchor, our safety. That requires closeness, predictability.
But desire.
Desire needs the opposite. It thrives on mystery, on otherness. You can't really desire what you already completely own.
So the more safe and secure we become, the harder it is to maintain that spark.
It's the crisis of modern coupling. We want our partner to be our warm blanket and our adventure.
This connects to sexual growth beliefs.
Yes, there are sexual destiny beliefs, the idea that you're either compatible or you aren't. Good sex just happens.
And those couples crumble when a problem hits.
Right, versus sexual growth beliefs. That's the mindset that a good sex life is a garden. It requires work. You have to tend to it.
They see a dry spell not as the end, but as a signal to do the work.
And sometimes that work is surprisingly simple. There was a study on a sexual touch.
The buffer.
The buffer, exactly. It showed that even when sex frequency drops, satisfaction can stay high if affectionate touch remains. Hugging, kissing, holding hands.
It is, I still see you. I still like you.
It keeps the emotional safety intact. It prevents the quiet distance from hardening into resentment.
So if you're in a dry spell, don't pull away completely.
Never let the physical silence become total.
Okay, so let's bring this all back. The great divide. Men want release, women want connection.
It's a false dichotomy. They're a feedback loop. Emotional intimacy is the foundation for safety. Physical intimacy is a language for connection. You starve one, you eventually starve the other.
And for the listener who's thinking, okay, but I just never feel the urge, the concept of responsive desire is your lifeline.
It changes everything. Stop waiting to feel hungry before you sit at the table.
Sometimes you sit at the table because you love the company.
You engage in low-stakes intimacy, a shower together, skin-to-skin contact.
And more often than not, the appetite comes from the eating.
That is the mantra. Action precedes motivation.
So here's your call to action. Look at your own dynamic. Are you using avoidance strategies, just hoping the issue goes away?
Or are you using approach strategies? Are you brave enough to talk about how you view sex, not just how often you're having it?
And are you willing to broaden that definition to include connection and pleasure without the pressure of performance? The research says that's where longevity is.
The goal isn't matching libidos. The goal is to never stop communicating about the gap.
Thanks for diving in with us. We'll see you next time.